Travel and Things, in association with Sun Destinations, iconic destinations with amazing experiences, presents In Conversation With. I am your host, David Batsoffen, and I'm joined today by Bennet de Klerk from Motsumi Bush Courses. Bennet, good morning and welcome to you.
Good morning, David. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
It's only a pleasure. So let's talk Motsumi, what it is, what it does, and why people should join you from the 7th of May.
Okay, well, let's start with what Motsumi is.
You're right.
I started my guiding career in the late 80s, doing overland safaris. And then after about 4 or 5 years of that, I was called by somebody from Kwamaritani in Pilanesberg, and I remember wondering, what is this Pilanesberg? I think I've heard the name somewhere. It's got something to do with Sun City, I think. And 2 days later, I was there for the interview, and it turned out it wasn't even an interview. They just desperately needed somebody. So I was already appointed just by arriving. And that's how my sort of field guiding career, as opposed to overlander, started. I then joined FGASA. That was in the early days. I remember I was still banned from FGASA for 3 months by Ria Milburn, because of a really nasty remark I made. In those days, you could write any level you wanted to start with, provided that you had some proof that you got a little bit of experience. So I just said, well, I'll start with level 3. And then I didn't get my results, and it turned out it's because I did something really bad. I was a bad boy. In the paper, they had this question about you are on a mountain trail with 6 people. One of them falls down a cliff 6 meters below you. You are not a good climber. What do you do? So, of course, I couldn't resist writing. I asked myself, if I'm not a good climber, what the F am I doing leading 6 people on a mountain walk? And I was banned from FGASA for 3 months. So I had a disciplinary. In the end, I did get my level 3 in those days, and within a few months from there, I started doing training, simply because I was in the school of the blind. I was the person with one eye. I was the one person who at least had a FGASA level 3 by hook or by crook, and I started doing training, in-house training for the lodge, which was then Kwamaritani, and also Bakubung. And it just went from strength to strength. And after a few years, I thought, well, maybe I should attempt this thing of starting my own training provider, so to speak.
Right.
And I wrote a huge book, and I'm so, later on, I was a little peed off when somebody else published a book by that name, but mine was never published. I self-published it for all my students, and that was my manual, massive, big thing, which I called the Field Guide to Field Guiding.
Oh, and I know the book that you
published a book, The Guide's Guide to Guiding, and I thought, did this guy plagiarize me? And I realized he couldn't have, because it was never published. Yeah, somebody just
Yeah, I have a very close link to the Guider's Guide to Guiding, because my father-in-law did all the illustrations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
But now that leads me into the next question, Bennet. If you didn't publish that, you and I published this.
Of course we did. I've been thinking about what we'll publish next
Next year.
year on the 1st of April.
Yeah. I'm still getting phone calls. I don't know, or emails. I don't know about you, saying, where can we
Yes,
purchase
yes.
this?
Yes, people are really into that. And
Yeah.
maybe we should start doing that
Well, I
research.
think so. I should imagine that whoever signs up for your course that starts on the 7th of May, though, will get a copy of that. Or if not the
Of
copy,
course, of
not
course.
a copy, then just a cover, a signed cover from the two of us.
Of course, of course. We'll have to give them that at least.
Yeah. So what can potential students come to expect on the 7th, on this course that's coming up?
Okay, so the first thing that makes my course probably a bit different from most others, not all others, there are definitely other people who also do their own training, but I think since I've started this, I've been giving the actual training, everything personally myself. So
Right.
it's not somebody who did really well on the last course is now a lecturer or an assistant lecturer or anything like that. So I take the full responsibility. I do all the training. I take them on their walks, their drives. During the course, obviously, I do expose them to some other guides, just to see a working guide as opposed to a trainer in action. So I do get occasionally somebody to conduct a good, proper game drive for them, where they act as real guests and not students. I take them on a walk or two, because obviously this NQF2 is always actually my little my sort of little sweetie lolly that I use to entice them to come and do the Trails Guide course, which is actually what I enjoy a lot more.
Right.
And
And
so they stay in my camp,
which is a very nice camp, because
beautiful.
I've been there.
Yeah, you've been there, and
Yeah.
nice
I've
big
broken
old
bread with
tents.
you and your family.
Yes, we have indeed. We have indeed. And yeah, we live on during the course. My school is on my farm, very close to my house, as you know. And we are in the Magalies Biosphere Reserve, sort of between Pilanesberg and Rustenburg, sort of. And we on the mountain. There's a lot of wildlife that's free roaming on our place. It's not fenced in, game fenced in. But we have free roaming kudu, nyala, bushbuck, steenbok duiker, obviously klipspringer. There's leopard, brown hyena. We find the tracks from time to time. Lots of honey badgers, porcupine. It's really a lot of wildlife, and over 200 bird species as well.
Okay.
Because we have this beautiful changeover of habitats, where the top part of the farm is broadleaf mountain bushveld, and then suddenly, almost abruptly, below the 1,300-meter line, it changes to Kalahari thornveld, which gives you a lot of different birds. Like we would have things that shouldn't occur together. Birds that we've got some Kalahari birds,
Right.
like the Kalahari scrub robin at the bottom of the farm, and then at the top here we've got white-browed scrub robin, and they normally don't overlap. We've got
I was
all
going to say
three
they must be
species of
very
mouse
confused.
birds. So yeah, no, so it's a lovely spot, and obviously we go to Pilanesberg at least once a week with the students. Once we get to the trails phase, we do 3 long trails every week. And then at camp we do the theory stuff, as well as the advanced rifle handling preparation. I've got my shooting range down there, so yeah, that's what, in a nutshell, what we do here.
All right, so let me ask you, maybe put it this way: what is the average day for a student? Take me through from sort of wake up to go to bed.
All right, so on let's say on 3 of the days, what happens is you get up in the morning, you quickly clean up and make the camp nice. Finding me arriving there at about 7 or so. And then we quickly do an inspection of the premises, make sure that all the papers have been picked up, make sure that, and it's not like hostel or army. It's just that we want to keep the camp in a way that, that it's presentable and that people can feel good there. We don't have one person making a mess and not cleaning it up, and then other people don't like it. So there's a little bit of that discipline, but without it, as you know, I had a very long army career, and I don't, the colonel normally doesn't come out unless somebody really stuffs up, and then they regret it.
And then there's running for trees and push-ups and all of the above.
Yeah, all sorts of stuff. And then we have class. Normally early morning, we first go for a little bird walk, tree walk, and then they've got their brunch time. After that, we have class, and then in the afternoon, normally we have another practical session on the farm here. But on Thursdays, our program changes slightly. On Thursdays, at the crack of dawn, we get in the car and we go to Pilanesberg, where we grab a game drive vehicle and we do a proper game drive where they have the big 5 also available to them, and and then the ropes off the open vehicle. And that's sort of the program of the NQF2.
Okay.
But obviously what we really want people to do is the Trails Guide course.
Because I've noticed of late, Bennett, that a lot of lodges are not just looking for NQF2. They are, in fact, looking for Trails Guides first.
Definitely.
That seems to be the beginning point. When you and I were at school, matric was the thing. If you had a matric certificate, whoa, you could become the CEO of a company. Now with a matric certificate, maybe you could, I don't know. It's not, let me put it this way, without angering people or being judgmental. Matric ain't what it used to be.
Exactly, yeah.
So now it's tertiary education, it's varsities, it's degrees before you'll even see the inside of your first job. And I think it's the same with guides. NQF2 or the level 1, as it used to be called, was the beginning point. But now lodges are going, no. We want Trails Guides as well. We want people who can take our guests on walks in Big 5 territory and know what they're doing.
Yes, David, what I find also with a lot of the lodges is that even if they don't necessarily have walking trails, they still prefer people with a trails qualification, because they as well as I do and as everybody does, that there's been quite a few really nasty incidents with vehicle-based guiding, especially with elephants in the last while, but also with there's been leopard and lion. It's like the animals are on a revenge. But this is why the lodges, they also want that guide to have been exposed to Big 5 on foot, to have that little bit of trails experience. A guy like that gets preference at the lodge, even if they do not offer trails there. Just because of that further experience with Big 5 on foot, and that you understand the psyche of the animals better. You've been on foot with them, etc.
Because I often watch videos like the incident in Pilanesberg recently, where the elephant lifted the vehicle up.
Yes.
And then slammed it down. Now, we all know where that was. It was near Monkwe Dam, because you can see the parking lot in the background. But what got to me was the fact that that driver, I don't know his qualifications, could have got out of that situation without angering that elephant. Yet he continued to push. And as you say, if you're a trails guide, you don't walk into an elephant sighting where there's going to be trouble. You don't look for trouble. Yet people in a vehicle think, we can get out of it. And then they want to rev engines and bang doors and all of that type of thing, until the elephant goes, you know what? I can lift you up, slam you down, and then sit on you if I really, really want to.
Yes. Yes, and in that incident, I think the unseen part is also that the guide was in the vehicle with a few guests, and the others started coming back from the hide, and the elephant approached those guests that came out of the hide. And this person, you know, in good faith, he thought that he should protect them by charging the elephant with a vehicle to
Keep it at bay.
averting from the guests, which was not the brightest plan. But what I'm trying to say is I don't want to crucify the person.
Yeah.
I had a long interview with him, and I understand his thought process, and we've spoken to him, and you know, he understands that how to handle things. But coming back to what you say, that situation most certainly would have been sort of approached in a much different way from a person with a trails guide qualification, a person who did have 50. Well, on my trails guide courses, we normally do about 65 odd hours. I think 50, you must never go for minimum. Always, you know, the minimum is the minimum, but go over and above. And we pride ourselves in getting lots of encounters. And elephants are normally the animal you encounter most. You know, it's easier to see them. They're pretty big. They're also much easier to track and so on. So yes, we certainly want people to do trails guide because, like you say, in vehicles you have incidents, and once you've been on trails, once you've stood close to an elephant on foot a few times, you've smelt it, you heard the voice, the rumbling, and you start to understand them a lot better. And also on foot, you will then have had a few approaches, and you will have seen how a proper trails guide handles that, and all of that will definitely help you in your game drives as well. So that's definitely a big yes. Everybody should do trails guide course as well.
Okay. So getting back to the 7th of May, firstly, how many students can you accommodate?
In one way, it's a little bit of a how long is a piece of string thing.
Okay.
I advertise that we take 8. My camp can sleep 14 easily.
Okay.
So you know, I can certainly take up to 14 people. It makes logistics challenging, but you know what? That's a positive challenge. It just means, you know, hiring in, getting another vehicle in, and possibly getting a camp assistant to help with some of the, you know, the shopping trips and things becomes a little bit more challenging. So that's a positive problem to get more than the 8. But when I have 8, I feel good.
Okay.
I feel that, you know, things are working out. And if I have more, I know that I can, if I have 10 people, I'm likely to have 8 of them continuing with trails as well, even though they didn't say so in the beginning.
At the end of the day. How long is the course?
So this course is about, it's an 8-week course.
Right. So
it covers the minimum time span for the NQF2,
NQF2,
sorry.
Yeah.
And which is now a nature site guide. I'm so pleased we're no longer calling these poor people apprentices after they leave.
It's like when school children became learners. I refused, when I was doing radio interviews that involved education, I refused to call them learners because many of them are not learners. Many of them are just going to school to sit there. They're not even absorbers. They're just pillars, you know.
Yeah, but so we just call them students anyway.
Yeah.
Even though some of them don't study.
Yeah, exactly. But now, again, the mix of your students, because I've noticed of late there are a lot more women joining the industry, which used to be almost 100% male dominated. I don't know what the split is now, but there's certainly more female guides than there used to be, let's say, even 10 years ago.
Yes, definitely. On my last 2 NQF2 courses, but on both occasions, I had 7 women and 1 guy.
Okay.
So, it's definitely, that's quite a percentage. That's statistically meaningful. So
It is indeed.
The ladies are taking over.
Well, and so they should. And I also believe that guests are coming to understand that just because the person sitting behind the steering wheel is female, it doesn't mean that she knows any less than her male counterparts. And in fact, I find some female guides to be much better because they're more empathetic, both towards their guests and towards the animal sightings that you go in and out of.
Yeah, very often more respectful towards animals as well.
Yeah.
Guys, that the testosterone is sometimes taking over and you're doing things that you shouldn't. And guys are more likely to want to show off, even if you don't mean to. Deep inside you, there's this thing that makes you do, we just bad news. So I really think female guides, even in the trails department, there's a number of female guides that are just so much beyond what we would have expected like 10 years ago even.
Well, if you look at the Safari Guide of the Year last year, for the very first time, was won by a woman.
Yeah, and it's a shame that it was the first time.
Yeah.
But it shows you that, yeah, no,
they're on the rise. We look forward with interest to see what happens this year. I'm sure Kimmy doesn't want to give that trophy back, though. It looks good on her mantelpiece.
Yeah, no, for sure. And well, if I was a betting man, I would go for it's going to be won by a lady again.
It's again. Why not? Why not indeed? The 8 weeks, Bennet, are your students sort of on campus or in camp for all of the 8 weeks, or do they get a break to go home? How do you structure the course or structure their time?
So in my case, we give them from a Friday afternoon until Monday morning. They can go somewhere if they want to. Many of them do stay. They can stay, and what they often do. The ones that stay, they walk the mountain. Yeah, there's about 5,000 hectares here that we can walk freely, and which is safe. The only big 5 in the mountain is leopard, and you would be so lucky just to find.
I was going to say,
we hear them call at night, sometimes, or you hear suddenly the baboons go crazy. But to find a leopard is on foot is virtually impossible. So it's very safe for them. They walk around. Obviously, I tell them always at least 2 people together.
Yeah.
So that if somebody sprains an ankle, it's a mountain.
Well, if somebody falls off a mountain and it's 6 meters down and you're not a good climber, then what do you do?
Yeah, exactly. Then you don't have to ask yourself those questions.
No, it's been done, asked and answered before. The other question I want to ask is the age split. What is the youngest you've had and what is the oldest student you've had?
Yeah, so we actually have a unwritten rule that we at least 18, and often we do have 18 years old. I had a young man, Kyle Irving, many years ago, who was 16 when he came on the course.
Right.
And he actually, he went from strength to strength, and he's now a dog handler with an elite anti-poaching unit somewhere in the Lowveld.
Oh, wonderful.
I'm not at liberty to give the name, but
disclose. Yeah.
yeah.
But now, having said that, they obviously need to be able to drive a vehicle. And I know that South Africa, your PDP rule is 21 to have one of those, which is why often people who qualify here go up north, because I know Malawi will let you drive public at 18. So
Yes.
so that may be your bottom cutoff. But at the top end of the scale, you've not had 80-year-olds who've decided that they want to be guides in their retirement.
Well, I had a lovely man. When I was still, before I came here, my school was there in the Vryburg district. I had a farm there, a game farm there in beautiful Kalahari veld, camel thorns and things. And I had a person there who was, at the time, he was 81. He's now in his late 90s and he's still guiding.
Wow.
It's amazing.
Clint Eastwood was asked when he turned 90, he was asked, how do you keep working? Because now at 93, he's still making movies. And at 90, yes, he said, you don't let the old man in. Because the moment you let the old man in, that's your life done and dusted. Thank you very much. It's time to check out. So he doesn't let the old man in. And he figures that's going to keep him going. Bennet, we're coming to the end of our chat. These sort of things go past far too quickly. They really do. So let's talk about how people can contact you. And more importantly, before I get to that, everybody's probably looking at your badge or at your logo and going, what track is that? So put us all out of our misery and tell us what it is.
Okay, so that is the right hind foot of a serval.
Okay.
And serval, for me, has a very special meaning. I always liked them and thought they were cool. And then about 10 years ago, I had the great privilege of hand-rearing and rewilding a serval. He was picked up on the road and he had an injury on his front leg. And I thought he would never be able to hunt because he had this skew hind leg. And while he was growing up, I made him climb trees. I also had an African wildcat that he played with. And servals are not really climbers, but I thought he needs to just practice those tendons and things. And he's still like around. I totally rewilded him. I taught him to hunt for himself, showed him the territory, walked with him everywhere over a period of about 10 months. And then he left and became sort of completely wild. And from time to time, I find his tracks, and I can see it's his because he's
the right hand leg
is pointing to the side. So he's still around on 2 feet.
Wonderful.
And he doesn't come to the house. You can't call him, he won't come. And that to me is success. He's just a completely wild animal.
Yeah, that's what you want. Not on the anniversary of his release, he comes back to nuzzle me and then disappears for another year type of thing.
Yeah, no, then it's not rewilded completely. I've done the same with a caracal as well. She did return twice after she left, and both times she just walked past, not looking at us, followed by 4 cubs.
Oh, wonderful. So she came to show off.
Yeah, but walking past as if she's saying, well, I'm just happening to pass here.
Yeah.
It's nothing for you. Yeah.
So how do people get hold of you? And is there still room on the course for the 7th?
I still definitely do have some room for a few latecomers, and be very, very welcome for them. They can email me on motsumi@iafrica.com. It's on the think it's
It's
on that
right there.
ad. Yeah.
So, well, it's very simple. Matsumi@iafrica.com. You can't get more simple than that.
Just remember it's .com. Sometimes
Not
people phone in,
.co.za.
yeah, and they say, why don't you answer our email? I say, which email? And then they've used co.za. So it has to be matsumi@iafrica.com.
Right.
Or they can send me a WhatsApp. And is my phone number also on there?
No, it's not.
So it's 082
Yeah.
926
Yep.
7830.
082 926 7830.
Yes, and please, they must use WhatsApp because then I will find it at some point. Because the problem, often I'm on walks or things or game drives, and then people say, well, this guy never answers his phone, but this guy is not in an office. So that's why a WhatsApp I will eventually see and I will respond.
He does indeed, people. I can attest to that.
It might be 3 months later, but
as long as it's in time for the 7th. Bennet, it's great chatting to you, and I do hope you and I will chat in the next week or so about me joining the course and come in to write about it so that future people know what to expect and can, you know, have a bit more insight before they join you. It's always nice chatting to you. You're a lot of fun. People will find out when they get their 4x4 track book. They'll know how much fun you really are. Even Lee Guttridge got involved in that book, and good for Lee. What can I say?
Yeah.
My guest, this has been In Conversation With. I'm David Batsoff, and my guest today from Matsumi Bush Courses has been Bennet de Klerk. Once again, matsumi@iafrica.com will get you via email, and WhatsApp is 082 926 7830. Bennet, thanks so very much for joining.
Thank you for the opportunity, David. I appreciate it.